So here's how I make $75 a day passively from my 2016 Toyota Corolla. So I'm going to explain in this video step by step how to do this, but also give some tips to improve it and mention the possible risks involved with this. It's actually a very simple idea, and I'm going to say it right now. I rent out my car to Uber drivers for $75 a day. And I got the idea when I spoke to a taxi driver who told me that they pay $125 a day to rent the taxi and they still make money. Knowing that a taxi usually charges more than Uber, so they have to pay more for the car that they're renting. But that's because the taxi driver knows that he can make $300 or $400 a day depending on the routes he gets. So when I heard that, it gave me the idea to rent out my car on Uber for $75 a day instead, because the process would be simpler. Now, why would anyone pay $75 a day to drive someone else's car? Well, when you drive for Uber, your biggest expense is car depreciation, is mileage, is your car being used up. So as an Uber driver, if you're driving a car that's not yours, you're not concerned about your car getting mileage or getting depreciated or losing value. So you can drive it fast, you can drive recklessly. I mean, passengers coming in and out, opening the door, slamming the door, all that adds wear and tear to the car. So the biggest expense for Uber is that car depreciation. So if an Uber driver can get someone else to pay for that, then they're happy. All they have to do is drive as many hours as they can to make enough money to compensate for that $75 a day. So the first step I recommend doing is finding a car insurance that will cover your car if you rent it out. So you need commercial insurance for your car. Not all car insurance companies offer that. So that's the first step, is to find a car insurance company that offers commercial insurance if you rent out your car to someone and obviously that person has an accident or even steals your car. So you need commercial insurance on your car. So you need to find a car insurance company that offers it. Second step I would say is to test your market. Not every market is the same. So before getting a car and trying to rent it out, I would place an ad, a classified ad on any classified ad website. I personally used kijiji.ca, just a test ad to see if there's actually demand for this. Simply mention an ad where you have a car for rent for $75 a day for Uber drivers. And trust me, there are a lot of Uber drivers that are willing to drive, but just don't have a car, don't have the credit to get a car, or are able to get a car, but they just don't want to use their own car because they don't want to ruin their car. They'd rather rent someone else's car so they could drive unlimited miles. So second step is you place an ad on a classified ads website and you see if you're getting enough demand, if there's enough email requests, and if you're happy with the demand, without making any promises to anyone, of course, you see that there is demand. So now you can go to step 3, which is to find the car. Now in my case, I just happened to use a car that I already had, which is not the best idea because like I said, the biggest expense with Uber or putting your car on Uber is car depreciation. So if you start off with a brand new car or an expensive car, your depreciation is going to be high. You're depreciating a $30,000 car instead of depreciating a $5,000 car, because that investment or that purchase you make in the car, you're not getting that back. It's not like a house that you buy and rent out and your house increases in value. The car gets used up, mileage gets added to the car, there's wear and tear. So at the end of all this, you're going to get a car that's worth much less than what you paid for it, if anything. So the best way to do this is when you look for a car, you want to look for a car that meets the minimum requirements to be eligible for Uber. You want to spend obviously the least amount, but at the same time, you want a car that doesn't require much maintenance from you. So you want a car that's reliable. So as you can see, it's nothing complicated. It's not rocket science. It's just a lot of steps. It's a lot of research. And actually, to save myself time from doing all that research, I would just go with a Honda Civic because it is one of the most reliable cars out there. Doesn't mean that all Honda Civics are reliable, but you have a pretty good chance if you go with a Honda Civic right away that you're going to have a car that doesn't require much fixing or maintenance or repairs. The idea is to find a reasonable price, maybe around $5,000, because you know that you won't be able to get that $5,000 back. The idea is to extract as many $75 a day from this car before it becomes ineligible to be driving for Uber. So in my area, To be eligible for Uber, the car needs to have 4 doors. It can't be a hatchback, has to have a solid roof. It can't be 10 years or older, it has to be 9 years or younger. So for in 2021, it can't be a 2000 car. It has to be 2012 and more recent. It needs to have a maximum mileage of 350,000 kilometers. So ideally, if you can find a Honda Civic that costs around $5,000, that has less than, or maybe around 100,000 kilometers, so it still has 250,000 kilometers of life to be driven with Uber, and then you rent that car out to someone who wants to drive for Uber. So if you spend $5,000 for you to break even and you're renting it out for $75 a day, you need to rent it out for at least 66 days just to get your money back on the purchase of the car. Because you know that once you get your car back at 350,000 kilometers, it's not going to be worth $5,000 anymore. It's probably going to be worth $1,000 if you're lucky. So once again, you know that initial purchase is gone, so you have to recover it quickly. Now, when you rent out your car to an Uber driver, you tell them that they could drive as many kilometers as they want. But realistically, you know that they can't drive unlimited kilometers per day. There's a limit. Human beings have limits. They can't drive 24 hours. On a good day, which can't even be repeated every day, but an Uber driver will drive maybe 500 kilometers if they really want to extract the most of their day. So if I assume that the driver is going to use the car for about 500 kilometers a day, and I bought a car that has 100,000 kilometers, and the car is good until 350,000, so I'm left with 250,000 kilometers. I divide that by 500 kilometers a day. Could be less, but I'm assuming the max here, which would be, in my opinion, 500 kilometers a day, because after that, you'd be too tired. So that gives you 500 days, potentially. So if you can rent out your car for 500 days for $75 a day, that's 37,500. Now, this number could be more if the driver doesn't do 500 kilometers a day. Now, from that 37,500, obviously you have to remove insurance, you have to remove maintenance and repairs, because that's going to be on you. The driver covers the gas, of course, but you're still going to have to repair and maintain your car, oil changes, tire changes, any surprises. Now, you're hoping to have as less surprises as possible. That's where the choosing the right car comes in play. So if you do every step correctly, it'll save you from potential headache. So once you've found your car and you make a purchase, you have to register it with Uber. So it's just a matter of going to your local Uber office and just following the steps to register the car. There's going to be a car inspection, usually done at Canadian Tire, which is around $55. Now, you're not going to register yourself as a driver, you're only registering the car. There's a difference, so it's less steps to register a car, of course. But you're renting it out to other Uber drivers that they will have to register themselves as drivers. So once you've registered your car with Uber successfully, now you can go back to your ad and respond to all the requests that you got, or place a new ad to get new requests. Now, this step is also very important as selecting the car. So selecting the car is very important so that you don't get headaches in terms of repairs and maintenance. And you need a car that's not too expensive, because that cost that you're making is not coming back to you. But the next step is to find a good driver. So you're going to have to filter or screen your drivers so that you pick someone that is in control. Like it or not, the person will use up your car and probably destroy it. But it still helps to take someone that knows how to drive or is in control of the car, to avoid accidents, to avoid headaches, to avoid surprises, to avoid unnecessary wear and tear. So what you could do in this case is respond to requests, tell them that, set up a sort of an interview where you let them drive your car with you, so you could see if you're happy with their way of driving. So like I mentioned before, it's nothing complicated, but it's just a lot of steps to set it all up. And you might have to go through some awkward moments, refusing some drivers. Now, once you've found your driver, then you're all set to go. Just set up a payment method, recurring payment method, so you don't have to follow up with the driver every day. Prepare a basic contract explaining the nature of the transaction, that this person can rent out your car for $75 a day, unlimited kilometers. They end up keeping the car, because they're not gonna bring it back to you every day. They're gonna keep it at their place. But because they're paying $75 a day for it, they're definitely gonna be trying to drive for Uber to make up for it, to compensate for the $75 a day, or else they wouldn't take it. And the reason this works is because even if they have the credit and they want to go lease a car, leasing a car doesn't give you unlimited mileage. You have to give it back under a certain mileage, and it has to be in good shape. So that won't work. As a driver, their best option is to buy a car that doesn't cost too much, that meets the Uber requirements. But sadly, not everyone has that upfront investment. So you're basically helping them out to get started and make money every day. And for them, they see it as less of a hassle, less of a headache, because it's not their car. If anything happens to it, it's not their responsibility to pay for it or fix it. Now, I do recommend keeping your ad active on kijiji.ca, because you never know, the driver could change their mind, they can give up. So you always want to have a few other drivers ready to rent your car. Now, I remember in March, in my case, I did lose my first driver, but luckily, or surprisingly, I had a lot of requests for people just wanting to rent a car for a weekend or things like that. So in March, April, I didn't have anyone who wanted to drive for Uber, but I was lucky because I had just random requests of people wanting the car for a week or for a weekend. But then in May, my initial driver came back and I gladly let him rent the car again. So potential risks is obviously if you don't pick the right driver, they could, not pay for the car. They can steal the car. They get into an accident. So it's going to be a headache. You're going to have to deal with insurance, file some police reports. So to avoid that headache and hassle, and to really make this as passively as possible, the research process has to be done correctly to make your life simpler. And while your car is getting fixed, that's $75 a day that you're not getting. Other potential risk, of course, is the car breaking down. So more upfront costs. So you have to pick a price that considers all these surprise expenses and insurance, and obviously car depreciating, because you're not getting that initial purchase back. So an improvement to this business is, like I mentioned before, is I personally used my 2016 Corolla, which is a bad idea because I'm depreciating an expensive car. So the way I would improve it is finding that right car, that right balance, a car that is not expensive but in good enough shape to survive as many kilometers as possible driving for Uber. And once you have a car set up, nothing stops you from getting a second car. And now you're making $150 a day passively, or $4,500 a month if everything goes well. So this is how I make $75 a day passively renting out my car on Uber. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Click like, share with a friend, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.